So this is being live streamed on the Daily Cal's Facebook, and a link will also be posted on the event's Facebook page. So if you have any friends and family at home who can make it out tonight, please feel free to give them that link, and that will live there forever. So if you'd like to revisit anything that was said tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to Jesse Erickson for his opening statement, and your time will begin when you start.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. Can you hear me? Hear me now? I'll just use this. Good evening. Last time I was here, I was taking City Planning 113, so it's good to be back in Worcester Hall. And my name is Jesse Erickson, and I'm running to be your next mayor. And in 2008, I was elected to the Berkeley City Council, becoming the first Latino ever elected to a city council in the city's history, and the youngest person elected to a council in Berkeley history. For the past 8 years, I have been effective progressively on raising the minimum wage, increasing resources for affordable housing, revitalizing our downtown, inspiring climate change, and promoting sustainability. I have a proven track record of delivering for the campus community. My leadership when I was a student leader as the ASUC City Affairs Director resulted in the university increasing its student housing goals. We are in a student housing crisis. Once again, we need to increase the amount of student housing close to campus. I also worked to strengthen tenant protections, increase lighting on campus, recently voted to increase density on Telegraph North and White, to encourage housing construction, expand business hours on the north side, downtown on Telegraph Avenue, increase the number of students on boards and commissions, amongst many other issues. Students make up 30% of our city's population. We deserve to be represented as mayor. I care about students. I will represent this in City Hall. Thank you.
My name is Ben Gould. I want to thank you all for coming out, as well as thanking the ASUC, Berkeley Forum, the Daily Cal, and Graduate Assembly for hosting this event. I am currently a graduate student here at Cal. I'm earning dual master's degrees in public policy and environmental engineering. I was born and raised here in Berkeley. I went to Berkeley High. I escaped for 4 years at UC San Diego, which is a beautiful place, but I love Berkeley too much to stay away. So I moved back right afterwards and worked in Lawrence Berkeley Lab for a while before starting grad school. I have served on the Graduate Assembly, and I'm currently chair of the Community Environmental Advisory Commission. And I'm running to be your next mayor. I'm running on 3 issues. First of all, housing affordability. We face an unprecedented housing crisis that's driving up rents, making housing unaffordable and unavailable for many people who would like to make their life here in Berkeley. We need more housing at all income levels, especially around transit, so people can live here without needing a car. Second of all, parks and infrastructure. Berkeley has $500 million in deferred capital improvements and maintenance, which we must address. When I was growing up here, our parks were not falling apart, and I'd love to make sure we keep them that way for future generations. Lastly, environmental sustainability. When time is up, I'll touch on the climate action plan a little more later. Thank you.
Greetings, my name is Warwick Capicelli. Last time I was on this spot, it was actually a grass field. I came here in 1965 as an undergraduate, graduated in 1968, settled down, had a family, raised 2 kids in Berkeley, sent them to Berkeley schools. I've been active in my community since the first day of my daughter went to kindergarten in 1975. I think there are several issues that we need to address, and I think some of them you need to focus on are public safety, housing, and transportation. In terms of housing, we don't just have a crisis in Berkeley in student housing. We have a crisis in the Bay Area in housing, and it needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed regionally. We're doing a lot in this community. I have supported over $12.5 million going into the Housing Trust Fund to build affordable housing. I think we need to find ways so that students of need, can get into that kind of housing. I'm sorry, did you raise that red card already? Thank you. Well, then I'm sure there will be more later. Mike? Oh.
Good evening, my name is Michael Lee. Thank you so very much for coming out here. It's kind of find myself on Cal campus. It's probably maybe the greatest sort of garbage because unlike certain people up here, I have a unique distinction of defending student body here since 1991, specifically about People's Park, but also for the free speech movement here on campus. There's basically a couple of issues here that I'm really concerned about that are specific to this campus. The first one, of course, is why is it that we're the second most dangerous campus in the UC system? It's never happened before in history, never before. Second issue is the very breaking destruction, and I heard about 3,000 homeless Cal students. From day one, as soon as I heard about that, I was up on this campus. Every time Cal student body gets community members up on this campus, yes, you will find me here. And that is my pledge to you. But you trusted me as mayor, you will find a responsible person. And I have that proven track record. You don't believe me, go ask the regions.
Hi, my name is Zachary Ringwald. I'm an Indigenous elder. I have participated in campus politics all the way back to the apartheid. I participated in the 1999 women ethnic studies struggle, which I was actually a teacher here until we did the 648-day tree sit at the Oak Grove. I was persona non gratis, and then we had the Regents and Nacho Hernandez, professor, and Robert Collins were politely excused. Namacho's at Harvard, Robert Collins at SF State, early professors. The problem here is that the City Council and the Mayor have been two buddies with the Regents. We need a representative for the residents and the students. And one of the, on my literature, it is the problem of sexual predators on this campus, and UCPD doing nothing. I will orchestrate and train the BPD to basically take complaints about sexual harassment on student. Hi.
Hi, I'm Chris Worthington. I've had the honor of having students write over 2,000 council proposals that have been voted on by the City Council, almost all of which have been approved. I've appointed the most students to city commissions, including the Police and Youth Commission, the Zoning Board, the Planning Commission, the most powerful and important Housing Commission. And I've been in Western Hall every single semester since I was elected because I know some of the greatest brains in Berkeley are professors and students here who have given Berkeley, they've done semester-long projects and came up with cutting-edge policy. And if the city of Berkeley would take the policy proposals that came out of these professors and students here, we could fix our dysfunctional planning department and actually have a national planning policy that prioritize affordable housing and green building instead of all of us fighting about all these boring things that don't really affect the quality of life.
All right, so hi everyone. Thank you again for coming tonight, and I apologize for the technical difficulties. So my name is Andre, and I'm the student for the So we're gonna kick it off right away. So the first question will go to Councilmember Berkeley, and then we'll go down from left to right. And so the first question is as follows. In the past years, city council meetings have ran so long that agenda items have been rescheduled without being heard. Agendas have been reconfigured on the fly, limiting the ability for the public to comment on proposals. For example, during last year's discussion regarding group living accommodations for men, many students felt like their needs were dismissed. As mayor, how will you conduct city government and empower students with community interests in legislation? Can you let me in?
Well, I would. Sorry. Hear me now?
So I would fix what I call the Tuesday night service. As an example, on April 5th, we were discussing the very important issue of housing policy and what Berkeley can do to address the housing crisis. The council debated the order of the agenda for 2.5 hours. And we delayed taking action on some important initiatives that would address the housing and displacement crisis that directly affects students and other people throughout our community. So I do several things. One, I would actually put controversial items on a separate agenda on a separate night. The root living accommodation item should have been a separate item held on campus or near campus so students and stakeholders could participate. I actually made that motion to do that. The mayor refused to do that. I would make sure that controversial issues, we listen to stakeholders, we work with stakeholders to try to find a good resolution. Secondly, we also need to manage the way that the meetings are run so that we can get through our items more efficiently while still giving people adequate time to comment. And there are many other reforms that we can make. As the chair of the Council's Open Government Committee, putting forward a number of initiatives to improve the process.
So I was at the April 5th meeting, and one of the biggest issues with the 2.5 hours of debate was that it was actually mostly public comment. The public attending the meeting could follow along with what the proposed changes in the work, and they expressed their dissatisfaction over a very lengthy period of time. One of my ideas for having this easier to follow and track is to have a Google Doc that's live updated live for everyone to see, so they can follow along with the agenda as it gets rearranged and updated and as it gets shifted and so forth. Because at the council meetings, there are often 40 or 60 items that get rearranged on the fly with different numbers and different orders, so it's mess to follow along with. I also think adopting reasonableness on public comment at the main meetings is reasonable because they are city council meetings, not public forums. We should absolutely have more public forums to make sure to facilitate community input. But I don't think the way to do that is necessarily by making meetings longer or having more meetings to make decisions at. I haven't been that in that time. Almost.
Thanks. Well, one of the first things I would do is order the agenda in such a way that the important items would come first. People who, particularly with kids, we have lots of family people who come to meetings, and by 9 o'clock they need to leave whether their items come up or not. So I would try to order the agenda in that way. I would also try to encourage my colleagues on the council to not submit so many items. Some people take great pride in saying that they've submitted 3,000 items in the last 2 or 3 years. Well, those take up a lot of time sometimes. But finally, what I do is I would use technology, and that is I would give people more access to the council meeting and more opportunity to provide input to the council with technology. And we're actually looking at a piece of software now that we will implement that will allow people real-time participation at the council level.
It's an interesting thing because I was at that 2.5 hour circus, and in particular circuses, and I stood there with our students and we were expressing their frustration. The number one thing I would do is I would believe that the city needs to have a strategic plan prior to rights. What are the top 4 things that need to be discussed? And those are the 4 things that go to the top of the agenda at all times. And we're talking about the participation of our students. I am the only candidate that is advocating for a representative from the Cal student body to sit on city council with full privileges. But the basic thing of it is that city council, the way the agenda is, we have to have a strategic plan. We have to be able to prioritize what gets done first. It's more important to talk about building affordable housing or buying a patch truck.
For years, the Bates administration and the city council have violated Brown Act. This is a concern of simple free speech. We may decide an item is controversial, you get 1 minute. That is a violation of the Brown Act. The open, 3 minutes. So this isn't easy to fix. The council has been guilty of following Bates and not suing him for violating the Brown Act on every city council meeting. So basically, as mayor, I would stay until 2 o'clock, until the community was tired. I'm a paid servant. They act like they're the rulers here, yet we're the servants. And as long as the people are up and concerned, I'm staying. I'm not calling meetings, I'm not pushing the agenda back so the important ones are heard, like Black Lives Matter at 11:45.
Well, I know, first, my interns only wrote 2,000 council items, not 3,000. But over 95% of those were approved unanimously on the consent calendar and didn't even take 10 seconds. So quality is more important than quantity. And our interns are really smart. Many of them are Berkeley College students, Berkeley City College, many of them are UC Berkeley, and they do really high quality. Some people on the city council want to restrict public comment and limit it to 20 minutes per item. You had 200 people show up, only 20 minutes for the entire thing, representing all different points of view. They are proposing to wipe out democratic participation in council meetings. My proposal that's appeared on the council agenda to have a special meeting every time we know there's going to be 50 or 100 people showing up to the meeting, we just have a special meeting. There's no reason to have all the other departments besides the one that's subject, and the public will get to participate fully.
And just to remind the audience, please refrain from responding to questions like could you guys please try to focus really your mic and see if it works? That's something. If it isn't working, try to focus.
1, 2, 3. It's working.
That's
Oh.
okay. Thank you very much. All right, great. So we're going to move on to our next question, and this question will go to Councilmember Worthington first, and then follow from the So, in the past year, the Graduate Assembly has identified housing as a major advocacy agenda item. We collected data that indicates that graduate students are being forced to live further from campus or outside of Berkeley higher. Graduate students share many qualities with young professionals. Many are older and have partners or have started families. As mayor, how will you approach Berkeley's place in the larger Bay Area's housing crisis? Specifically, your commitment to access and affordability of housing for those who study and work in Berkeley at varying income levels.
Well, what you do is more important than what you say. I have already convinced the city council members, although some of them have told me I didn't, but they voted in favor of adding thousands of units of additional student housing close to campus. I wrote that proposal, and when some people said you should limit that housing to make the university building, I was wise enough to know that if we restrict student housing to being built by the university, we're not going to get thousands of units. So my proposal encouraged the university to do public-private partnerships, which are getting us over 750 beds right now in Stiles Hall, and have the potential to get us 6,000 beds if we keep working in public-private partnerships that have labor protections, keep the rents comparable to the dorms, and require the university green building standards. The university's green building standards are better than anything in the city planning department. So public-private partnerships and university-built housing.
This has a long history of developer violations. The two violators are Howard Buchanan and Patrick Kennedy. They have basically loopholed affordable housing 15% required on all builds for the last 2 decades, going back to Shirley Lee. All it takes is a strong mayor to enforce this, and like they're doing in Oakland, draw a ceiling cap on the greed of these developers, a rent cap. And so they're using gentrification as a weapon. And there's houses, and I forgot the exact addresses, and I can get it on my website. They are empty on San Pablo. There are empty buildings here because they keep the rent high and people can't afford it. So these are workable solutions. You need a strong mayor to reinforce the affordable housing with 15% against the developer.
glad that you raised this question once again, because it's supposed to be Daily Cal for many, many years, is that too long we've been focusing only on building. We seem to forget that we should be developing multiple short-term strategy, building, acquisition, rehabilitation. Along with that, specific tools or vacancy tax, blight tax, and we must talk about the process of eminent domain. Go after these people, deliver their legal buildings, and keep causing blight and all kinds of crime.
Well, we didn't get into this housing crisis in the last 2 years. This has been a 40-year process. Berkeley and actually most of the region has suppressed housing construction over the last 4 decades. Really, it was only after entering the 21st century when we began to realize and began to panic and realize that we had not built enough housing. I would do several things. One, I would make sure that the university had as much pressure put on it from the mayor, from the region, from the legislature to provide housing for students, affordable housing for students. Two, I would make sure, and there are ways to do this legally, I would make sure that students of need had access to city affordable housing. And that would basically be housing that did not have HUD money in it. And third, I would make sure that we follow through on the south side plan to increase density and make it possible for people to become entitled and start building within a year. Right now, it takes 3 to 4 years to get your entitlements and then another 3 years to build. Most of us will be long gone from the university as students by that time.
So when I was in the graduate assembly last year, I actually served in the housing working group and helped write a resolution that calls for the city and university to collaborate in finding approaches to solve the housing crisis. I don't think necessarily fighting over making people do stuff is the right way to do it. I think the university would gladly build housing for students after the 95% approval resolution for the students last year calling for more housing. I think the issue is finding a location to do it and getting buy-in from the community and students in order to support the university to do it. For this question about graduate student housing in particular, graduate students do qualify for subsidized low-income housing. Most graduate students are considered very low-income people. I think at a recent affordable housing lottery, for like 3 or 4 spots available, they had 3,000 or 4,000 applications. So clearly the issue is to do more housing, both affordable subsidized housing, but also just regular market rate housing. So the existing housing stock we have available in Berkeley can remain affordable for those people who don't have high income tech salaries. Those people can live in the new housing we build, and everyone else can afford the existing older housing.
Well, I've been a leader in creating affordable housing in the Berkeley community since my days as a UC student. I led a coalition to get the university to increase its commitment to build student housing close to campus. The Martinez Commons was a result of that effort. We need to put pressure on the university to increase student housing construction. I have authored a resolution the City Council adopted to President Napolitano and Chancellor Dirks to express the city's strong interest in making sure the university expands student housing construction. We do need to look at private-public partnerships and opportunity sites to facilitate housing construction. We need increased density, particularly in the south side, to better encourage housing construction. But in addition, our inclusionary requirements, and I was a leader on the City Council putting our inclusionary zoning requirements in place for new construction, do provide an option for graduate students to get access to affordable housing. We should give preferences to graduate students to be eligible for that housing. And Measure U1 on the ballot, which will provide millions of dollars for affordable housing, will provide local dollars that we can use to build cooperative housing and other student housing and new private student housing.
Thank you. Moving on now to the issue of public safety. Public safety is a large concern for members of the community, with a series of sexual assaults, armed robberies, and muggings. Many in the Berkeley community fear for their safety when walking around the city, especially at night. How would you work with safety officials to make sure that everyone in the city of Berkeley can get home safe?
I believe you're addressing that today. Like I said in my opening statement, the Berkeley police, if the UC police refuses to take this report this nationwide crisis for student-on-student sexual violence across this country, at Stanford, all the way across this nation. UC police cannot defend our young people. I would instruct first BPD to be properly trained, because this is a crime that is trauma. So you can't just go in, with guns and blazing. You have to be trained in this. And we've had this inappropriate police behavior in killing Caleb Moore, which went to court today. So I stand with cop watch in the black students, in the reform of the Berkeley Police Department, who shot innocent students, and the students actually took away their tear gas, rubber bullets, and flashbang.
When we come down to public safety, we come down to the fact of the matter that there was no leadership within the police department. It's very lax. That is being changed over the motion and agreement. The second thing is that we must fully understand that half of the time the police department is not spent catching bad guys. You know what it's caught doing? Anybody care to answer that? Chasing homeless people. Now, what you paying to do? I don't think so. As mayor, those two things are going to stop. We are going to have proper leadership within the police department, and they're going to stop chasing homeless people.
Well, I think probably one of the major issues for South Campus, and we just had an example in the last couple of days of how unsafe it is there. I think we need to do a couple of things. One, the Berkeley Police Department is at a 20-year low in terms of staffing. And one of the things I did in June with our mid-year adoption of a budget was to increase the number of officers that are authorized. Second thing we need to do is there needs to be better cooperation and communication between UC Police and Berkeley Police. And third, we need simple things, particularly at night. We need better lighting on the streets, and I think we need escort service that goes beyond where it goes now in terms of what UC is providing. I think public safety is probably the number one issue in every neighborhood in Berkeley. But in the South Campus, where I lived for 2 years, even then it was an issue. And I think we need to address that issue.
So I guess it makes alerts to all of you do. Every other day it seems about you on the north side or on the south side, something like that. So I understand exactly where we're coming from. I think some of the things we talked about before are really important and really great. Expanding Berkeley Police Department's force, so they have more patrols around the south side and do better job enforcing law everywhere else. I'm also interested in seeing expanding mayoral. Currently, UC Berkeley has a program where you can have community police officers, usually students, I think, escort you home, but oftentimes it's such a long delay between when you request one and when you actually get one that you'd rather get home on your own. So, the city can collaborate with the university to help expand that, providing resources. Instead of hiring more police officers, they hire more mayoral people to help escort people home at night. Expanding street lights is very important, and I think to address the issue of sexual assault and sexual violence, UC Berkeley has recently expanded trainings for new students. We should see how those play out, and hopefully they can address the issues that we have.
So crime in the campus area is a major concern, just as much as it's a concern throughout the entire city of Berkeley. It's not just an increase in violent crime and assaults in the South Campus area, we've seen shootings in the parts of Berkeley. And so there are several things we need to do. While we do need to expand our police force, 35% of the calls to our police department relate to mental health. And so if we can expand the number of emergency mental health outreach workers to take some of that burden, that would allow the police department to better allocate resources to address crime in the South Campus area. That's one thing I want to do. I think we need to expand our joint city UC patrol. Lighting certainly is something that needs to be further investment. I'm glad that there's some progress being made in that effort. When I was a student at UC Berkeley, we actually did safety walkthroughs around campus, where we actually identified where better lighting would be needed, where blue lights could be installed, where we can actually improve the physical safety of students, and that's something we're going to continue to do as well. Expanding our shuttles and possibly expanding Walk the Beat on campus would make a big difference as well. And lastly, the issue of sexual assaults is a big issue, which I'm sure we'll discuss shortly.
Well, I think Councilmember Berkeley hit some of the biggest, most important policies, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoy voting for him as well as me using Angela's voting. But more importantly, if the crime rate in the hills of Berkeley getting the people who live there was close to the crime rate that hits the campus area, we would have 50 more police officers hired every year. That's just practical reality. We need data-driven decision-making and proportional policing. A lot more crime happens in the campus area. We need a lot more police coverage. It's only reasonable and fair. We need officers walking and bicycling the beat in the campus area. When we've done it as a pilot program, it has succeeded. We get emails and phone calls from businesses and residents and students and faculty. Wow, things are going so much better. We need to use Wildfire and Nextdoor and lots of other social media more than we do. We need a national night out against crime, and we need to implement our crime prevention to environmental design program that we design but don't use.
You've all mentioned, most of you mentioned the urgency of police and how long. I'd like to get to that subject. In the last few years, Berkeley Police Department has come under fire repeatedly. In 2013, mentioned Caleb Moore, a black trans woman back in Massachusetts, was taken into police custody after removing all the police due to concerns about Moore's mental health. Moore later then died after an officer failed to apply the safety procedures. In 2014, the department and mutual aid dispersed crowds using overhand baton strikes, tear gas, and rubber bullets during the December Black Lives Matter protests. In light of Chief Mann's resignation, how do you plan to hold the police accountable for community concern? Something for you to do.
The first thing I would do, if I was sitting on city council where we have 3 city council people up there in response to overhand strikes, pack your bags. See you later, alligator. Chief of police, see you later. Okay, number 2, we believe administration will sit down with chief of police and what to say. This is what's acceptable behavior, this is what is not. This goes on, pack your bags. We're going to go find accountable professional police officers that are going to do the job that they pay them to do, not chase homeless people, not shoot unarmed protesters. That's not happening on my watch. It does happen on this current city council's watch, won't happen on mine. Sorry. The other thing is, no more participation in urban shield under no circumstances.
I think being a police officer in our society today is a very difficult task. And there are many eyes on police officers and watching their behavior. I would agree with Mr. Lee, and that is we need to define very carefully what standards of behavior we expect, and we have to demand that police officers fulfill those expectations. I think accountability is important, and I think transparency is important. We've certainly learned over the last 2.5 years that we've got some issues that we have to overcome, and I think we're doing that. Our police officers, every one of them at this point, has gone through special training, and I think that training is leading to better relationships with the community. I would also agree we need to get our police officers out of their cars. They need to be part of the community, not policing the community.
This is a really great question. I think it's important to realize that the history of policing has been one where the police are state-sanctioned actors of violence. I don't think that's the sort of police we want our community at this point in time. I feel like we reached a tipping point in the United States where we're realizing the history of police is no longer meeting the current needs that we're asking police to fulfill. So I think it's important to figure out what we expect from our police, what we want, what sort of behavior, and also what services we want them to provide, and figure out what training and resources they need in order to accomplish that most effectively, rather than continuing a history of a system that wasn't necessarily designed to achieve what it's trying to do now. I think we can look at ways to strengthen the Police Review Commission, the independent citizen board that reviews police behavior and addresses local policies to address behavior issues like this. We can also do more for training, see how the sort of anti-bias training we're working on turns out, and also improve communication and feedback systems. Because right now the city council oversees the city manager, who oversees the police chief, who oversees the police department, which sort of leaves long lines of space between the actual citizen input to the council members and the police officers' actual behavior.
Well, in 2014, when thousands of people, including students, took to the streets in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement, we saw on December 6th our police respond with excessive force, shooting tear gas at large crowds, including people leaving Zellerbach Hall and walking home from Telegraph Avenue, people that were not involved in protests, rubber bullets, over-the-shoulder baton strikes. That is not the kind of policing that reflects our country's values, particularly in a city which is the birthplace of the free speech movement. So what did I do? I led an effort on the city council to not only impose a moratorium on the use of tear gas, the shooting of rubber bullets and over-the-shoulder baton strikes in protests, but also initiated a review of our policies on use of force and crowd control so we can ensure that that kind of incident does not happen in the future. So the policies that we shape with the council around police oversight are critical. The relationships with the community and the police. But what's also important is having adequate reform, and I want to reform our police commission to reflect 21st century practices of police oversight.
Not one of them is with fire. Not one.
So, I was given interns, wrote a proposal to have full-fledged police review reform in Berkeley, similar to what Oakland has on the ballot right now. But was overwhelmingly passed by the Oakland City Council. But because we didn't expect that the City Council in Berkeley would be as liberal as the one in Oakland and put it on the ballot, we also got the Police Review Commission to unanimously recommend a no-post liberal reform proposal of 8 reforms that are much milder than Oakland's, but that would make things somewhat better. Both of these items appeared on the City Council agenda 5 times. And the majority of the City Council refused. They didn't vote it down, they refused to talk about it. It was 4 times when we had time to put it on the ballot and have it voted on. I figured at least we'd get the mild reforms that Police Review Commission unanimously recommended, but we didn't even get that.
We've had a problem in the city of Berkeley with the police chief we had. We inappropriately got Sergeant Custis to try to change Doug Oakley's story at 12:30 at night. We then had Mayor Bates not fire this inappropriate behavior of harassing the press at late night with officers to change the story, which a resident lost his life. While we were still at Oscar Grant Plaza, BNY basically said that he had 3 squads at Alcatraz. We haven't left Oscar Grant Plaza yet. So that was number 1 block. The horrendous, out of control behavior that happened on December 6th should have been the immediate dismissal of Meehan. And I would get within the department, the regular, who actually is quoted as saying he's protecting the residents of Berkeley from the Berkeley Police Force.
So our next question will start with I've been doing the homeless population in Berkeley has increased by 22% since 2009. Despite the city allocating funds to numerous programs addressing homelessness, mental health infrastructure, and others have advocated for policies like sidewalk laws that some, including the previous Save the Cow editorial board, have argued criminalize homelessness. What actions do you propose the city take to address the needs associated with having to support homeless population?
Well, I think the homeless population, the homeless question is a complex one. We don't have a homeless population. We have probably 4 or 5 different groups that fall under what we generally talk about as homeless. I just met today with a group of residents and the Berkeley Food and Housing Director to talk about it in detail. And actually, the one thing that everyone agrees, and that is that if you're homeless, the first thing you need is a stable roof over your head. And we don't have any housing in this community. We have 0 housing in this community. And one of the things we need to do, and one of the things that a council majority has fought a lot, and that is the production of housing. Not only market rate housing, but affordable housing. So that's number 1. Number two, must be a regional approach. We need to work with Oakland, we need to work with Richmond, we need to work with Albany and Emeryville, who direct their homeless. When somebody asks for homeless services in those two towns, they're directed to Berkeley. They have to have them. We need to share with them.
We absolutely have to build supportive, inclusive housing for the whole population in Berkeley. But it's obviously not enough to do that because we'll have people coming here. We can set an example through leadership to really start tackling this issue, but we'll need buy-in from the rest of the region and the state to really address it once and for all. Because homelessness is more than just a Berkeley problem, it's a statewide problem. We also need to think about addressing student homelessness. It's another big yet under-discussed topic in our community. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of students who are either homeless or housing insecure. And we need to make sure the university builds housing for those students so we don't have this problem anymore. The city can partner with the university to help provide funding for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to help build student housing for targeted students for involved Pell Grants or more likely to be vulnerable to housing insecurity and to make sure we don't have this problem plaguing our community any longer. Lastly, we also need to figure out what to do about emergency shelters in Berkeley. The fire at the church, the boring center for winter is burnt down. We can find new locations that fit our homeless people so they don't freeze to death on the streets this winter.
Well, so much time and so much money over the past few years has been spent at the City Council on laws to criminalize the homeless. And if you get a citation and you don't appear in court, you are arrested, you go to jail, and you're ineligible for services and housing. How does that end homelessness? And I've been one of the voices on the City Council against laws to criminalize the homeless and in favor of investing in real solutions that will address our homeless crisis. And they are housing first. My leadership on the council has helped move forward a project, a supportive housing project, that will provide over 100 units of permanent supportive housing on the city parking lot or downtown. We need to invest in housing first. We need to expand mental health services. My leadership on the council is opening 5 new mental health outreach workers that will be coming on our streets in the coming months. We need to do more, and we do need to pursue a regional approach. This is a regional national problem. It's endemic of not just the housing crisis, but the crisis in terms of aid and inequality. And I think Berkeley can work with other communities, increase housing, increase resources, and make big strides to effectively address homelessness in a compassionate way.
The answers have all appeared on the City Council agenda and been delayed or defeated by the current majority of the City Council. The answers are pretty clear. 1, stop having 35% of Berkeley Police Department calls be done by police who are not psychologists or psychiatrists, and those things should be done by mental health professionals. Have a drug and alcohol detox. Have navigation centers like works in San Francisco. Do nonprofit consolidation. Create more wonder centers that are very cost effective. You open public restrooms that already exist, that are currently closed for some reason. And last, but most importantly, when I proposed that instead of our affordable housing funding going to exclusively to 50% and 80% earning median income, I said it needs to go to 10%, 20%, and 30%. I was laughed at by Congressmen. And they resisted it. For 8 months, they kept on voting on it. 10% is people who are homeless getting into housing. We need to prioritize 10, 20, 30%.
Basically, I entered Berkeley politics when the homeless budget was $8.5 billion, and they didn't get one person off the street since then. Homelessness is an issue they don't want to deal with. It's basically Mike Lee talked about it. Homeless that they want to deal with is segregated. I just got out of that. They basically kidnapped me for 30 days, and that is their housing development in Santa Rita. Santa Rita costs the taxpayers more than it takes to send it to this university. And this is not a cheap university. The system has to be developed. You have to, there's open space right now. I'd be careful about constructing too much housing because we have global warming. Number one issue, you can't keep cutting down trees. I'm for recycling, building, but cutting down to development trees is out of the picture.
I have to correct one of the statistics. You said it was 23%. It's actually 53%. Now, talking about housing first is a really nice thing when you want to talk about 5, 10, 15 years out. Question becomes is, what do we do right now today about our homeless population? We have people literally dying in the doorways of Berkeley. The thing of it is that we have to have a strategic plan that has a short, medium, long-range goal. What is that called? A scientific, calculated process. Right now, that process looks like tents, tiny houses, or affordable housing. Right now on City Council desk, there were not one but two definite proposals that taken together would reduce the homeless population almost immediately by 20%. That's right, by 20% at the end of 6 months, it would be a zero cost to the city. Councilmember Capitelli and I have been working on tiny houses. We have suspended that work until after the election because we do not want it to become a football. We want to end the homelessness. The solution is in this room.
And then the next question is going to be the final moderator's question. And so if anyone from the audience is interested in asking a question, we're going to ask you to line up on that wall where Daniel is. And this question is going to start with Mr. Wolf. A 2014 audit of the city of Berkeley revealed that the city was far behind on its goals to achieve zero waste status in the near future. Do you think that the current goal set for Berkeley to become zero waste by 2020 is realistic? And what are specific measures you would take, if any, as mayor to put Berkeley on track to do zero waste?
So, I'm chair of the Community Environmental Advisory Commission, and I've been endorsed by the chair of the Zero Waste Commission as well, actually. And I'm very excited about the potential of zero waste, but I think it's very challenging to meet. Not necessarily as many costs to the city of Berkeley itself has, but just by the very virtue of the fact that, for instance, when you buy something on Amazon, it comes with packaging that is not recyclable or compostable. You know? So it's very difficult to meet this goal until our entire society has shifted to sustainable materials. That being said, I do think we can work more to address this better. Some of the things I'd like to see is rebuilding the zero waste transfer station to help improve our community's ability to recycle and reduce our waste. We have a very good recycling and composting program for single-family homes, but it's difficult to get that in apartment buildings. I live in an apartment building that was required to start composting, I think July 2014. We didn't get it until this past year or so. So I think looking into apartment buildings and working to enforce that they have appropriate recycling and composting facilities there for collection, and also to make sure that signage is available and information should be to residents is really important as well.
So the zero waste goal, like our climate action goal, are broad goals that aim to move Berkeley forward in addressing sustainability and climate change, but these are goals and we are not on track to meet our goals. Just like we need bold leadership to advance our climate action plan, we need bold leadership to move our zero waste goal. So I agree with what was said that rebuilding our transfer station into a model zero waste facility, we can actually expand the amount of material that is being used and diverted from landfill will help us in our zero waste goals. In addition, existing apartment buildings are not equipped, many of them, for recycling or composting. And so as Ben said, we need to make sure that we require facilities and signage so that people can adequately recycle and compost in existing multi-unit buildings, as is required by stop waste.
So in tomorrow, the city council is being recommended to take a step backwards in terms of zero waste. And we need to bring our commercial hauling operations in-house and synchronize it with our EU standards. And instead, what's being recommended is that we continue to contract those out to private companies that don't necessarily comply with our environmental standards. We also have numerous apartment buildings all over the city that are not complying with Alameda County's requirements, or they have to have compost facilities, they have to have recycling facilities. Last summer, we went around with a bunch of students going door to door, identifying what landlords were not following the law and pressuring them in order to start doing it. We need to have an enforcement mechanism. It shouldn't take our students doing an internship to
city should have an enforcement.
The zero waste has been taking the compost and recycling. I wouldn't concentrate on that, I would concentrate on our air. We have far too many cars going at this, and I have a 70-year stop driving campaign, which the Mohawk Nation helps shut down Canada on 9/11. The air quality, there's so many cars in this city. I would first start with closing down Telegraph to pedestrian only, and have a shuttle coming from each bar station, combined with bicycle only libraries at every bar station. So the air quality is the issue. Global warming and rising waters, that is the key issue. This university went forward and we helped stop the British Petroleum deal to cut down the Amazon rainforest to make green energy. Indigenous people, this is our time. You need to listen to us and just where you told us and slow down.
Let me first have to admit that I'm not real familiar with zero waste policy here in the city, but I would prefer to people like my friend over here, Mr. Gould, who come out here in this audience before the panel, sit down and actually look at this issue and come up with some real recommendations. My expertise and my concern comes from the fact that you can pass all the proposals you want, make all the promises you want, but you can't keep. The thing of it is, even if you pass the proposal, where is your enforcement mechanism? Where is the money to pay for these things? Those are things that you need to keep in mind. Mr. Gold, when you put it together, a zero waste policy program, make sure you include these experts out there in this audience.
Well, I think Mike raises an interesting point. We've made a lot of promises up here to you already in terms of dollars and where those dollars are going to come from. I would agree that our apartment zero waste effort that started a year and a half ago probably was not organized particularly well. We didn't communicate very well to landlords, and we didn't communicate very well to tenants. And so that program is struggling. I would almost suggest that it needs to start over in terms of certain buildings. A lot of the older buildings in town are not equipped to handle 3 different waste, plastics, and paper. They just don't have the room for it. So we need to figure out some ways to deal with that. I also want to say that in terms of packaging, I don't know how many times I've sliced my hands open on a clear plastic container that's holding some tiny little item that I want. And we need to deal with packaging. And we're not going to deal, I don't want to deal with it at a city level. We need to deal with it at a regional, preferably the state level. And in terms of plastic bags, I urge you all to vote directly at November 8th in terms of plastic bags. Let's get them out of order.
Thank you. And just by, we're about to go to audience questions, and just by moving along, I'm going to guess that we're not going to go too attention to everyone. It's just one, but take it away. Hello, my name is Dominic. I'm a student in Citizen. Here's my question. Given that you all support tangible increases in affordable housing in some sort of fashion, what is your opinion on the hotel in Berkeley's plan to build, rather than more affordable housing? And how is your opinion going to affect housing for someone's family?
That's very valuable.
Given that you all support tangible increases in affordable housing in some sort of fashion, what is your opinion on the hotel that UC Berkeley is planning to build, rather than more affordable housing? And how is your opinion going to affect housing for students and for the community? Well, the hotel, like the pool that's going on with Tank Lot, I think is a wasted opportunity for housing for students, graduate students and undergraduate students. These were sites that were actually identified in the long-range development plan for student housing. But some of us fought to get the University built housing on years ago when I was a student. We need to prioritize university land, including in the downtown area, including the taller buildings in the downtown, for student housing. We have a critical need for more student housing. And as mayor, I will work with the UC administration and with students to put pressure on the administration to create more student housing and to do everything the city can to ensure that we can meet these construction of student housing. But but let's not waste these opportunities like the pool and the hotel, which is just a revenue generator for the university to get out of its debt. We need to prioritize student housing and the needs and concerns of students or the university trying to get out of debt.
Well, I actually am in strong favor of the university getting out of debt. And if they don't, then they're going to charge students a lot more money again and again. So I don't think fighting each and every use of using property to stop it from going to other things makes sense to me. I think, the other city hotel, we're having to give them back some of the transfer tax because they're not saying they're not going to make enough profit. So I think if the university can get a hotel company to give them a lot of money as a profit off of this, the university is very smart, and they deserve the money. There are numerous opportunity sites, and we need to develop public-private partnerships to build on. The university can provide the land to get public investors to invest. The university doesn't have the money to build much student housing, so we need to attract private investment in partnership with the university land. The city council has supported that, and we need to implement it.
First of all, this facade that the university is part of, it is ridiculous. It is a banking institution that loans the state of California money. This is ridiculous, and then prime core is just basically to rise the student tuition. Basically, the hotel, the capture of the downtown by the university should be opposed because they're exempt from taxes and services, and this will be on the residents' backs today. So that basically should be X. Also, the ridiculous tax breaks that the city council has prided themselves in giving this other hotel is ridiculous because the city is $1.2 billion in debt. And so giving tax breaks for these hotels is hypocritical. So this is, we need new leadership here with an honest value, looking at the books of the university that are not broke.
3,000 homeless Cal students. Cal students talking about they can't afford the price of housing. I think that deserves a thumbs down. And I believe that the city of Berkeley needs to take all of its regulations one by one to oppose the silly development of this pool and then the hotel. You're broke, you're broke. Go find some other way, just like we do, to get your finances in order, but not on the backs of 3,000 almost Cal students.
Well, I just mentioned in my last remark is money. And one of the things that the university is committed to do with its hotel is to charge the contingent occupancy tax and pass it along to the city. That's a big number. We're expecting to get $3 to $4 million a year when all is said and done from the private hotel that's going to be built at Center and Shadow Street. So you don't build affordable housing out of thin air. You build it with money. And the money has to come from somewhere. And the hotels, the landlord tax that we're talking about, the Measure U1 that's on the ballot, all of those things add up. I voted for and supported projects that brought $12.5 million into the city. That $12.5 million is going to pay for the city's share of the affordable housing that was mentioned earlier on the Berkeley Way lot. That's going to be 100 units of affordable housing and 30 units of SROs for vets. We need the money.
I'm obviously disappointed that the university chose not to build student housing on its available sites in downtown. I'm also disappointed that the university is focusing on revenue-generating programs instead of educational programs, but I do realize they have a major budget deficit. The state has underinvested in public education for decades, and we need the revenue, and the city needs the revenue. So, given that this project is already in the works, it's already going forward, I say let's pick our next battle, not fight yesterday's battle. I think the city could, for instance, use this money from the transfer occupancy tax to pay for affordable housing or student housing. University can similarly use some of the sites that's now currently demolished, like Tolman Hall, or redoes First Gym for the pools, to find out try to build student housing closer to campus as well. We can also look at sites in the south side for more housing. But as far as the hotel is concerned, I think it's not ideal, but it's good.
Hi, my name is Henry King. I'm a student here, and I'm also a member of the Green Committee here at Berkeley. One law that I saw pass through this year was the GLA bill, which many students raised concerns would decrease the reporting of sexual assault, decrease the amount of student housing, and cause myriad other issues. I'm curious where you stand on this bill, and if you believe that further controls need to be passed in order to reestablish trust between the Greek community and their neighbors.
Well, I opposed the defined nature of the GLA ordinance. I got it delayed several times. Unfortunately, the city council adopted it. Just like if the rest of the city of Berkeley had to put up with the conduit that we have in the campus area, they would do something. If the tens of thousands of tenants in the rest of the city of Berkeley had these kinds of restrictions in all of their apartment buildings, it would have been approved by the city council. So I think there's a discriminatory nature of the way that the council members think. I tried to amend the bill by adding in the ASOC wrote an excellent list of 11 reforms that were needed in the GLA ordinance. The city council only adopted a couple. Then I took it down and said, what about just adding in these 4 improvements? And the city council refused to do that also. They have adopted a law that can take away beds in a unit and take away entire housing units. We need to reform this ordinance.
I apologize because I wasn't educated on this particular ordinance. But once again, I want to reiterate that I would retrain Berkeley police to be able to handle these sensitive issues, date rape, intoxication, violence. Students, I went to Berkeley High, and there was always a conflict between the high school students and the university students. This is something that there was a stabbing, and this is long forgotten, stabbing between the students and the Berkeley High students. There is a conflict there. So these issues need to be addressed with sensitive training to the Berkeley Police.
Councilmember Worthington is absolutely correct in the efforts that he was trying to join people in there. He kept saying, we have to continue to look at this. This doesn't benefit any cities at all. I also joined Councilmember Worthington in the same day calling for an immediate review of this ordinance because I believe it doesn't serve the community. I think it's way too complex. I think it's just outright silly the way it got put forward. We shall see with the new city council and the new mayor, we may be able to do that.
I said the GLI ordinance wouldn't work and it didn't. I believe we need a different kind of law. There are certain kinds of behaviors that we want to regulate. We need to regulate the behavior. The law is a bad law.
I think everything that's been said is basically we're all in agreement. The GLA ordinance was not an effective way to address behavior issues or student safety. Just like we talked about criminalizing homelessness doesn't end homelessness, criminalizing underage drinking doesn't end underage drinking. It just pushes it further into the shadows and makes it more difficult for critical and state survivors to speak out and get their safety issues addressed. So I think it's important that we find ways to regulate it in ways that ensure people can be safe and live healthily without imposing additional burden on the community or putting additional risk on the safety.
I agree that it was a flawed ordinance, and as mayor, I would work to visit the policy and make a number of reforms. First of all, this law does not say that it, unlike the second response ordinance, I believe, that they would not be used in a discriminatory fashion against students. That is a huge problem. We should not allow this discriminatory against one class in our community. Secondly, I'm against the idea of removing bedrooms as a violation in a housing crisis. Taking away housing is a bad idea. There's even other silly rules like you can't play music after 10 p.m. or 11 a.m. I think that should just be on to the noise ordinance. I have a party in a single-family home. Same rules apply. So there are a number of reforms that I think are needed to make this law fair. And as mayor, I want to bring students, the community, other students at the table, to talk about how we can fix this very policy.
Fred Dodsworth, I'm running for City Council District 6. I just discovered that $100,000 is being spent on this current election by the National Association of Realtors. $70,000 of that goes to Kelly. Additionally, $1 million is being spent by the biggest property owners in Berkeley to defeat U1. I would like to hear each council person talk about that issue. Whether you support U1 or DD, don't do it, and why specifically. And how do you feel about all this outside money coming to buy our election? Mr. Reynolds.
Outside money and inside money has always been a concern. On the national level, Mayor Bates took $115,000 from the Chamber of Commerce. We heard nothing from the council members then, and now we expose it again. So any outside money is corrupted. So that's an issue. You see it in service tax. You see it. These big corporations are buying politicians. So I'm against this outside money. We tried to violate Mayor Bates in $115,000 from the Chamber of Commerce. That's $114,600 violation. The limit is $400. Nobody said it on city council. Nobody brought it to the Fair Elections Committee, and then just brushed us off. So there is a problem.
I think it's very interesting to talk about outside money. If it's a big surprise sort of thing, I think if it is, Mr. you got $70,000 in outside money. Where's my fried chicken dinner at, son? What is the difference between Mr. Capitello's outside money and Mr. Arrogate going to get Danny Glover and Bernie Sanders as an outside endorser? What? You don't think that Danny Glover is going to help him raise money?
Oh,
come on, there's a little bit of a hypocrisy there, isn't there? But there is a problem with outside money in our city. But you, the individual voter, have to do some critical thinking. Just because he got Danny Glover to endorse him doesn't mean squat. And just because he has outside realtor money, that doesn't mean squat either. If you use this.
And please make sure everyone to pay respect to everyone, all the candidates. Not that hasn't, please make sure to respect everyone. Yeah.
No respect there. Who didn't give me my fried chicken dinner? My fried chicken is not good for you, you know that. First of all, I believe the reason, and I know very little about it, but I believe the reason that there's an independent community out there of realtors is because they believe in housing production, and they know also about housing production. Now let's talk about U1. U1 is the landlord tax, and it's one that I helped write. I've been on the steering committee now for the better part of a year. So that's my participation. Are any of my colleagues who are in that community pissed off at me? You're damn right they are. But I happen to support U1, which almost triples the gross receipts tax on apartments. So, you go figure.
I support U1. I don't defend expenditures. But I think it's important to realize that the whole issue about U1 is bringing money for affordable housing. It brings in about $3 million a year for or business license tax on large landlords to spend on affordable housing. The other way to get money for affordable housing is to build more housing. And I think that's what the National Association of Realtors is trying to do by supporting Councilor Capitelli, is trying to get more housing built. It's good for their business, and it's also good for affordable housing. Not all the candidates for mayor have actively supported housing. Some of them have blocked almost every other unit of housing that's been proposed in the city of Berkeley. And so I think it's important to think about, we talk about supporting for affordable housing, where's the money going to come from that? By and large, most of it comes from new market rate housing. Like with the Harold Bay project, we're raising $10 million from just one project for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That's, it's not like 3 or 4 years worth of Measure D1. If we do a Harold Bay project, which is 300 units every couple of years, not only meet our housing crisis, we meet our affordable housing crisis as well. And that's what we're really solve housing problem, not just with landlord taxes and tax on big money housing owners.
Well, first, I'm proudly endorsed by Senator Bernie Sanders, Danny Glover, hundreds of other organizations, elected officials, and community leaders from throughout the region of the state of California. But that's not the question. I support Measure D1. I actually proposed Measure D1 4 years ago. If we had passed it then, we had millions of dollars in our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. It is a fair progressive tax that taxes windfall profits to invest in affordable housing and homelessness prevention. Compared to Measure DD, don't do it, which is funded largely by big landlords and would generate significantly less money for affordable housing and tax small landlords and large landlords. And there's a saying, follow the money. Almost, I would bet, probably over $1 million is going to be spent by large landlords to confuse voters to try to defeat Measure D1. Similarly, in the mayoral and city council races, there is large amount of money from outside real estate interests trying to influence the selection. I think it's important that the voters look beyond this, look at our records, and decide who is the best advocate for affordable housing. Somebody who is consistently voted to give developers discounts would spot for every single unit and every single dollar of money for affordable housing.
You can remind the audience to be a little bit louder and loud.
So, unfortunately, Berkeley politics, like all across America, is polluted with big amounts of money. The money from the realtors is just one part of it. I've been attacked in multiple elections with lots of money from the police PAC, the Chamber of Commerce PAC, the landlord PAC, and in spite of all that money, I keep getting reelected to the city council. So money doesn't always win, but it is polluting the Berkeley politics, just like hundreds of millions of dollars are polluting campaigns all across America. That's why we need Prop 59 on the state level. That's why we need X1, which is campaign finance reform, right here in Berkeley on the local level. And if I had a choice between, which I don't seemingly, if I had a choice between being endorsed by Bernie Sanders and Danny Glover and being endorsed by Bernie Realtors, I'd much rather be endorsed by Bernie Sanders and Danny Glover, who reflect the values and the morality and principles of Berkeley.
My name is Coriel Burdell. I'm a registered nurse at Bates Hospital, and I don't know if UC community is aware that Bates Hospital is likely to close. Sutter, the corporation that owns Bates, the only full-service hospital between Vallejo and Oakland, wants to close the hospital. And so my question is what you're willing to do to see to it that we don't have a public health emergency in the city of Berkeley if Bates gets away with closing its stores. I have some flyers here that I'm going to hand out to people about why Bates needs to stay open. So that's my question.
I believe we're at Mr. Reed's
It's absolutely crucial to Alphabet's. The thing of it is that when we approach Alphabet, some of the corporation, we have to understand that we're a business. We need business people to sit down and negotiate. And ask them, what's it going to take for you to stay here in this city? Emotion's not going to do it. Fortune picking lines aren't going to do it. We have to have a rock solid business plan and business idea about what it's going to take for them to stay in the city. Yes, we need the lobby. Yes, we need to be on the picnic lines. Yes, we need to be doing these things. At the end of the day, it is a business decision. Yeah. We also have to plan for the what-if scenario. What if? The University of California must start to pick up its own health costs.
Well, I will do everything I can if I'm there to keep out debates as an acute care hospital in Berkeley. First thing we have to do is find out what kind of legal leverage we do have over on the base. Sutter, which is the corporation that owns Alpha Base and Summit in Oakland, has certain obligations under the community benefit laws. We grant them tax exemption from their property taxes. They are, in turn, supposed to return community benefits to us and the Berkeley community. We need to find out just exactly what our legal leverage is over that institution. I would also use the bully pulpit of the mayor's office to push them as hard as you can. And going to what Mike said, I think you need to sit down with them and say, what's it going to take to stay here? What's it going to take to keep an acute care hospital with an emergency room in Berkeley? If we don't do something, they will close, and my prediction is they will close the emergency room in the acute care hospital before 2030. Remember, they've got a seismic obligation that they have to deal with. We don't know what the issue is. We don't know how much it will cost. We need to find that out.
So the Ultimate's building is seismically unsound, has to get retrofitted, it's going to continue to be used. But Berkeley's issue is not that Ultimate's must be safe, but that we want an acute care hospital with a full-service emergency room in our community. Because otherwise, the option is to go to Richmond or to some hospital in Oakland, and those aren't viable. We don't necessarily need to keep Ultimate's as the acute care emergency hospital. UC Berkeley students are pushing for expanded teen center access and opportunities. We could have UC Berkeley looking to building a full-service acute care hospital emergency room. Herrick Hospital near downtown Berkeley has plenty of open space and a parking lot that could be used for a new hospital. Meanwhile, the Ultimate site has been long opposed by neighbors since 1983 when it first wanted to rebuild it. And instead, it can be used, for example, for affordable housing, or teacher housing, or even student housing, with a new shuttle going over there. So we have to look carefully what the community wants, what the opportunities are here, and rather than just need to defend everything the way it is right now, figure out if there's an opportunity for new growth and some change to make things better overall.
Well, the closure of Alta Bates is an issue that has really gone under the radar and directly affects the health and safety of not just our broader community, but the student population. There have been to Alta Bates emergency room. A significant number of people there are students. And because the university does not have an emergency room center, Alta Bates is the emergency room of the University of California. So as mayor, I will do everything I can to fight the closure of Alta Bates Hospital. We need to look at legal options. We need to look at zoning power as an incentive. You look at what other communities did in the Bay Area to fight hospital closures. They leveraged legal and zoning power to pressure hospital chains to back down. And we need to build a regional coalition, which is something I'm already working on with our Assembly member Tony Thurman. I'm proud to have the endorsement of the California Nurses Association and look forward to working with them and with cities throughout the Bay Area because this affects the entire East Bay. And building a regional coalition and fighting as hard as we can to keep this essential public health service open for the East Bay.
When there were mild proposals saying, let's study this, and let's talk about it, out-of-school interns, research, what worked across the country at successfully saving hospitals? So they researched all over the internet, finding everything they could. And there was a common theme that those cities that won and kept their hospitals, they started out, like the San Francisco Board of Supervisors or St. Luke's, in a fierce opposition. They didn't say, let's talk, let's study. They said, no way, we're going to stop you from closing this. And that is what our interns wrote for a policy for the city of Berkeley. They consulted with the nurses and the doctors to get the technical facts, but that policy was adopted by Berkeley. It's now been adopted by El Cerrito, Richmond, the city of Oakland, and we're building a regional coalition. We all need to support this California Nurses Association's leadership in standing up to Sutter Corporation and saying, no way in hell are we going to let you close this hospital.
Yes, I mean, Sutter has to be confronted legally. Also, taking an emergency room out of Berkeley is unacceptable. I recently had a eye injury. I had a bicycle fork stuck in my eye socket and I was bleeding out of my eye socket. It was quite scary. But do you know where I injured? I didn't trust the emergency room. I came to the optometry school here, and it was, brilliantly taken care of. And so the students here is one of the options, one of these students, but we do not want to strain the nurses who may get laid off. So this might has to be taken on multiple levels, in multiple areas, but allowing Alphabates to close is unacceptable. We need an emergency room in the city of Berkeley, if not two. So medical is serious in this city.
And unfortunately, we only have time for one more question. Hopefully, the candidates can say that afterwards and address your concerns. I'm very sorry for the meeting.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alfred, and my question is, what would you like to see built at North Berkeley Park Station's parking lot? Please be specific. If it's housing, how far, how many rooms?
Well, we have two BART opportunities in Berkeley, actually, the Ashby BART and North Berkeley BART. I will tell you there's a distinct difference between the two because the city of Berkeley owns the air rights over the Ashby station. We don't own the air rights over the North Berkeley station. But I do think, let's imagine we control both. For the sake of argument, I'll answer the question directly. I would like to see housing built over that, probably 3-acre parking lot. How high it should be, I think it should be a moderate height, 3, 4, possibly 5 stories, stepping up towards the center. There are a lot of engineering. I've investigated this with BART engineers. There are a lot of issues that we have to deal with. The BART tunnel underneath won't hold the building. So we have to, and the BART tunnel takes up about a third of that lot. So there are a lot of things to consider. But the reality is we need housing. It would be a great infill project. People who didn't care about being close to BART 20 years ago now care a great deal. What we're doing in the downtown with our new neighborhood, a transit-oriented village, is one that I think we should pursue at North Berkeley and Ashby.
I love this question. I have no height qualms, so I would not object to a 100-story building going up there, but it's probably technologically and politically unfeasible. So I think we should at least allow it to be 10 stories or so, and see what the community can work into, what is physically possible, and so forth. Again, it's obviously housing. It's inclusionary housing. It should be at least 20%, if not 30% affordable units to a range of incomes, not just 80 to 20% AMI, all the way down to 10, 20, 30% AMI. I would also love to see the rest of the neighborhood around that also built up as well, because Sacramento Street is a great commercial corridor that connects with University, with Ashby, with Hopkins Village to the north. So we can develop that as well for more mixed-use housing, commercial on the ground, and 6 stories or so of housing above it. That's another good opportunity site. And we can also expand transit in that neighborhood as well. With more housing, more jobs, there's more demand for transit and biking. And that's the way to really address our transportation issues by bringing more density to these transit opportunity sites so we can have more people using those transit options.
Well, I think the redevelopment of both the North Berkeley Park Station parking lot and Ashby parking lot are great projects that we should consider. With regard to how tall the building should be, I think that the North Berkeley parking lot, something as Mr. Peck said, at a moderate scale makes sense, since it really develops a single family neighborhood. But I think we could build several hundred units on that parking lot. The general plan calls for 50% of the housing on the Ashby parking lot to be affordable. And we've seen these spikes in other communities when the city enters into agreements with developers on building city land, where a very small fraction of the housing is affordable. And as mayor, I would work to prioritize city-owned land for affordable housing first. These are prime opportunity sites in Berkeley, which is already a built-up community, to construct projects at more than 20% affordable housing. We have a critical shortage of affordable housing in our community for not just low-income residents, but our middle-income residents and students. And these opportunity sites are the best opportunity to expand affordability.
I think as an abstract intellectual or as a soundbite, it sounds really good to say we should build housing in North Berkeley Garden just like in South Berkeley Garden. It sounds great. In the real world, it's less policy and it's more money that drives what happens in reality. So the people who have the money, they want to invest in campus area. They want to invest in downtown. They want to invest on the University Avenue and on San Pablo Avenue. So rather than go after some intellectually interesting concept and prioritizing North Berkeley Park, I want to prioritize South Berkeley Park, where the neighborhood is saying, give us affordable housing, please. They want affordable housing. Let's focus our energy on giving that affordable housing where people want it, and let's get 6,000 beds built in the campus area that students desperately need. And if we need, someday down the line in the next 10 or 20 years, maybe we need to talk about North Berkeley Park. It's not the top 10 priority right now.
I come from South Berkeley, grew up on Ashby Avenue. The neighborhood does not want a transit village on Ashby. They stuck in the Senator Purdue Haywood in New York to express our love for community people. But this is to assault the South Berkeley flea market and the open space. South Berkeley will fight a transit village, I guarantee you. We won it before, and we'll fight it again. They are using the North Berkeley BART option to weasel their way into, and I got to apologize to weasel, but to go after Ashby BART. This is interesting that they're proposing North Berkeley, but the roof is they're going after South Berkeley, and we will fight that. And Mayor, I support with recycled materials North Berkeley BART, and yeah, it's interesting.
I love this talk about South Berkeley, especially Ashby. I don't know where you gentlemen have been at, but obviously you have been at the anti-mask or the planning meetings because, as a member of the Friends of Adelaide, we oppose the development of Ashby Park. We've made that very public. Residents of Harriet Tubman oppose any creation or any disturbance at Ashby Park. I, Michael Lee, guarantee you, first bulldozer that shows up at Park, I'm chaining myself to it. You ain't gonna have it. When we go build something, we'll build it up in North Berkeley, put it up on Solano, and think it's something that's the idea. South Berkeley is our home. It is not your cash register.
So, folks, we're coming to that time tonight where we're going to have our closing statements. So, if each candidate could give a 2-minute closing statement, beginning, we started with Mr. Gould. Yeah. So, we'll be starting with Mr. Gould. Thank you.
2 whole minutes, wow. So I think we just saw one of the biggest distinctions of all of the candidates in this election. It's around housing and housing construction. If we're going to meet our housing shortage and address our housing affordability crisis, we need more housing at all income levels everywhere in Berkeley. We can't say not in my neighborhood because if everyone does that, we have a tragic common situation and nothing is built. Like it's been for the last 40 years. We've seen some candidates talk about partisan affordable housing as well. And oftentimes they use that in order to get in the way of building other forms of housing. We really need to make sure we build all forms of housing and not obstruct new housing just because it's not affordable enough or because it's not green enough. And it's not like the perfect beginning of the good. And instead start tackling our pressing issues that we're facing right now, which is not enough housing. I'm running for mayor on platform of housing affordability, reinvesting in parks and infrastructure, and environmental sustainability. Like I've been saying, we need to build more housing to address our housing shortage. For parks and infrastructure, we have $500,000 in deferred maintenance capital improvement that we need to make sure we address both in the immediate term with Measure T1, start paying down that debt, and long-term restructuring our city's finances to make sure we can close the structural deficit we have and not have this problem come up again. For environmental sustainability, we can talk about this much, but I'm actually calling for the city to update its 10-year-old climate action plan which calls for an 80% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, but fails to account for anything from natural gas, which is a third of our city's CO2 emissions. So I'm calling for natural gas construction to be phased out of new construction for heating, water heating, cooking, and drying systems. So we can start moving away from dependency on fossil fuels and towards a clean, renewable energy future. I'm proud to have been endorsed by Councilmembers Lori Drosky and Susan Landgraf for the second choice. I'm the only outsider candidate running for mayor who's been endorsed by current city council members, showing my ability to work collaboratively with the city council and really get things done. I've also been endorsed by all the endorsing members of the Graduate Assembly Executive Board, the External Affairs Vice President, the Campus Affairs Vice President, the Internal Vice President, and out of time. Well, I would love to have your support in November. Please remember to vote on November 8th. If you're not already, please remember to register to vote outside, especially if you moved recently. Thank you.
Sorry. Well, I love Berkeley, and I'm excited about our future. As mayor, I will continue to lead on economic and social justice, promote equity in our schools and community, improve city services and infrastructure, and advance Berkeley's environmental leadership. I am the son and grandson of farm workers. I'm a lifelong community advocate. I got my start in advocacy in the Berkeley community as a student leader, working as the ASUC City Affairs Director, where I represented students in City Hall. We fought to increase student housing and transportation options and improve public safety. And I want to continue my work representing students as your next mayor. On the Housing Advisory Commission, I secured millions of dollars for affordable housing along our transportation corridors. I served on the Rent Stabilization Board, where I worked to defend rent control and strengthen tenant protections. Now more than ever in this displacement crisis, we need leaders that will fight not just for creating housing, but preventing displacement, and I'm committed to both. On the Berkeley City Council for the last 8 years, I've worked with every single member of the council and delivered real results. From our affordable housing fee, to environmental policy, to helping co-wrote the downtown plan, to efforts to raise the minimum wage in Berkeley. I have been a leader on the City Council for progressive issues. As mayor, I want to work to address our housing and homeless crisis, raise the minimum wage, prevent the closure of Alta Bates Hospital, improve public safety, and continue Berkeley's environmental leadership. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity for new leadership, for dynamic, progressive leadership, and for the voice of our generation to be heard in the most important office in City Hall. I'm honored to have the endorsement of Senator Bernie Sanders, the Democratic Party, the Sierra Club, the East Bay Express, 30-plus organizations, hundreds of elected officials and community leaders have endorsed my candidacy because they believe I'm the best person to lead Berkeley into a new generation and to fight for our community's shared values. I'd be honored to have your support. Thank you.
Well, it's interesting that all of the questions from the panel, starting with public comment and the repression of the students with the GLA ordinance, I'm the one who actually voted against that ordinance and fought strenuously to stop students from being marginalized. The issues of affordable housing, there's a sharp distinction between the candidates. Jesse Aragon and I have repeatedly fought to get millions of dollars for affordable housing. If his proposal had been approved 4 years ago, we would have had many millions of dollars. Crime, I have introduced the most proposals of solving crime. I gave you 8 of them earlier tonight. Holding the police accountable, I introduced a proposal that was delayed 5 times by Councilmember Capitelli and the majority of the council. Homeless solutions is one issue that Councilmember Aragon has actually introduced more solutions for that than I have. But I've introduced 49 proposals for how to address affordable housing, and most of them are very specific to what we can do. If we get a majority on the council, we can implement those. I also introduced the zero waste facility, having a state-of-the-art model zero waste facility is one of our top priorities. And once again, the city council has delayed that for years. The minimum wage didn't get mentioned tonight, interestingly, and yet Councilmember Capitelli voted against 6 times. He was the deciding vote to kill an increase in the minimum wage. 6 times. One more vote, we would have won. Nobody has talked about all the stuff about housing and where it's going to be and how tall it's going to be. I really couldn't care less how tall buildings are. That's irrelevant. I care how green they are and how affordable they are. Our zoning ordinance is insane. It creates all kinds of burdens, nothing to do with the public process, just the bureaucracy that delays projects, like Councilmember Capitelli mentioned. for years. And that has nothing to do with the public. The contrast on public comment is drastic. Capitelli and half the council want to say 20 minutes is how much the public comment.
Hello, this is a critical time. This is a critical time in the world. We face global warming. We face Fukushima. Fukushima is a 6-year foot-dragging poisoning of our waters. This is a serious, serious crisis. The University of California is the birth of the nuclear age. My campaign goes beyond the city limits. It goes into the ocean around the world. And it's right now the State Department controls Japan. We are being told a lie. Why isn't there health warnings to people who are getting sick and Berkeley Bowl eating the fish? And the UC Regents, the experts, the nuclear experts, silent. This is genocide. This is not about picking up recycling. By the way, there's a plastic ocean. Yes, as indigenous people, I run a stop driving campaign. A national stop driving online at www.stopdriving. It is 7th year. We're not talking about trash. We're talking about stop, slow down. The number one issue. And does anybody want to eat fish again? Do you? We're going to have a food crisis. So I'm not talking about these little new parking lots. The violation of the Brown Act, closing down Telegraph to help the small businesses, the vendors, put them in the street, have Emeryville shuttle from South Berkeley and downtown Berkeley, bring people up, the vendors and the small businesses, and Viva Records, and Fred's Market, Wheeling's Tobacco want this. And I'm endorsed by No Duke and Cindy Sheehan if we want to go into endorsement.
2 plus 2 equals 5, right? No, everybody in this room knows that that's not true because of the fact we use 2 things. Critical thinking, and we see the end result is not correct. The same thing with politics. We've heard a lot of promises throughout this campaign. We proposed this, we proposed that, 2,000 proposals this. Question is, though, the proof is in the pudding. Where's the reality? Where's the table? Plus 2 equals 4, it doesn't equal 5. You can't eat promises. Ideology is not going to solve a $1 billion budget deficit. It is not going to do that. When you go to the polls, think to yourself, is what these people saying real? Or is it 2 plus 2 equals 5? Because if what they're saying is real, why are we still talking about affordable housing? Why are we still talking about crime rate out of control? $1 billion budget. We have a budget deficit. Why? Ask yourself that question. I don't expect you to make me your number 1. But I do expect of you to go to the polls or vote by mail. Let's ask the question, why is 2 plus 2 equals 4 and not 5?
Oh.
Well, I want to talk about a couple of specific things and then some generalities. Number 1, I'm the only person up here who has supported $12.5 million worth of money going to the Housing Trust Fund and 700 affordable units being built in the last 12 years. I'm the only one. And I can demonstrate to you, if you like, go to my website to look at the evidence in terms of where other people have voted. Secondly, you have a lot of argument about the minimum wage around here. I'm the one who actually introduced the minimum wage that was going to be on the ballot, and it was going to be $15 in 2019. It would have been the 4th or 5th most aggressive in the country. When SEIU wanted to avoid a ballot fight, they called Jesse Arreguín. This is what he said anyway. They called Jesse Arreguín and said, we want to talk about a compromise. He said, call Capitelli. and they called me. And I spent 40 hours in the month of July, negotiating with SEIU. And we came to an agreement. That basically split the baby, and that was 15 and 18. So we're going to have the second most aggressive minimum wage in the country, 3 months behind San Francisco. And we're going to have that in 24 months. 2017. So I will not yield on the fact that if it hadn't been for my 40 hours, we wouldn't be here today. We'd be arguing about measures B, E, and CC. Finally, I want to say I'm endorsed by Robert Leich, who's a professor at this university. I'm endorsed by the League of Conservation Cities. I'm endorsed by, League of Conservation Voters. I'm endorsed by Nancy Skinner. I'm endorsed by Lonnie Hancock. I'm endorsed by 5 of my colleagues on the city council. I get things done. I can talk to you for another 30 seconds about the Elwood Theater, which was going to be bulldozed in 1991. I formed a group that raised $400,000 to save that theater. My time is up. I appreciate you being here tonight. I hope to vote for me.
Thank you. And as per the rules that we agreed upon, we'd like to offer a public chance for Councilman Murphy. If you'd like to. You do have comments.
He wasn't listening to it.
Oh, well, so I think several things on affordable housing. If you actually look at the votes that are taken, my opponent has actually, his obstruction is in opposition to increasing funding for affordable housing, resulting in millions of dollars less money for affordable housing. With Airbnb, the discounts he's given to developers, the landlord tax, which we could have passed 4 years ago. So that's just one example. And on the minimum wage, it was a comedy of errors. We could have gotten to $15 an hour much sooner. But as Councilor Worthington said, on 6 different occasions, Mr. Capitelli was the deciding vote as to whether we would go to $15 an hour. That makes you question, what are our priorities? Do we want to lift people out of poverty, or do we want to delay? Thank you.
So we wanted to thank all of our candidates tonight for the spirited debate, so we could give them all a round of applause. As always, the Berkeley Forum presents its speakers with commemorative posters, and so this time is so different. We have 6 trained posters for our guests tonight, so I wanted to hand those out. So thank you folks so much for coming out tonight.
Show us the poster.
In addition to that, I also wanted to remind everyone that if you need to register to vote if you've been entranced by this vote for debate. So if folks, there's folks from the ASUC all around that can register for people to vote. So please register to vote. And the second part of registering to vote is also showing up to vote. So vote by mail, absentee ballot, whatever you need, please do so. I wanted to also thank the ASUC, the GA, and the Daily Cal for all co-sponsoring this event. It was a great effort. Everyone has done a great job on this. Big shout out as well to our moderators up front. They did a great job keeping everything in order in this debate. And then thank you to you folks for showing up and participating in politics. So I really appreciate that. Also, if you want to help the city meet its zero waste goals, please help pick up all the flyers that have been passed out. So thank you so much and have a great night.